I'm Brady Leavold, and you guys are watching the Nasty Knuckles podcast.
You're listening to Nasty Knuckles, the Hockey Outlaws podcast, with your hosts, Derek Nasty Settlemyre and former Philadelphia Flyer enforcer Riley Cote, as they go behind the scenes with your favorite NHL players. Time to face off.
All right, welcome back. What's happening, Nasty?
Well, Rick Aurelia, what's going on?
Nice sweatshirt.
Oh, you kidding me? I didn't realize we had the same ones on, but yeah, it is nice.
Well,
I just literally
noticed?
realized
Just
that.
woke up?
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
your little morning
no, I
Joe?
didn't just wake up. I've had a morning. Some shit going on around here.
Oh, my
in
gosh.
Flyer country.
Yeah, there's a little bit.
Your boy, William Gauthier.
Oh, Cutsy?
Cutsy poo. See you
He's
later,
on
buddy.
his way out.
Bye.
Or he's out.
Crazy
Jeez, what
few
a-
hours. I don't know where to start with it. Obviously, we're just finding out more and more as we go along, but he didn't want to be a Flyer.
Yeah, that's what the word is on the street.
So you know what?
He's no longer here.
As Jonesy said, then we don't want you, and everyone else said it.
Yep.
But it's true, but wow.
Yeah.
You want to walk us through this, Riggs, or what?
Well, I'll walk through what I know, which is not much.
Yeah, exactly. We're hearing a lot of stuff right now.
Well, what do we know? We know they got traded for Drysdale and a second rounder, right?
Yes.
That's a fact.
And from all accounts, this kid's obviously he's a right-handed D, which we do need.
Yep.
And very well loved with the Ducks, I guess. Just a great kid. Loved what he said yesterday. He's just happy to be here. Didn't really want to talk about William Gauthier going the other way. He said, I don't know much about him, but nice to get this kid in. And you get him right away now. Now you're not waiting. And you have someone that's excited to be here.
That's right.
And excited for the future. And first of all, before we get into everything, I'm amazed, and it's actually pretty incredible that Danny and Jonesy and the staff were able to keep this quiet.
Yeah.
They actually were protecting the kid. You know, like,
And rightfully so.
The Flyers, first of all, like, we're not just saying this, but we worked here, but it's a first-class organization.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you don't want to come here blows my mind away. Is it too hard for you? Whatever, we don't know. The pressure, who knows? The coach, who knows? We've heard rumblings that that's not it, but they found out in May, I guess, that he decided he didn't want to be here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they kept it quiet. Did a good job with that.
Which I think was a smart move, because if there was a chance that he played, you can't reverse the damage that the media would have caused had they have known
100%.
that, right? So smart move. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, it's
some
great,
things you
man.
got to keep in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Tight to your chest.
And you know what's funny? Mike Richards posted, he replied to one of Baller's posts from Nasty Knuckles IG, and he said, you're always looking for the organizations to be more transparent and tell you more. Well, now they did, and then there was a post about, tell us how you really feel. Well, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't want to be here, so, you know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the fans want to know everything that's going on, but the reality is there's some stuff it just you just can't announce and you can't release. I mean, how many phone calls do the GMs have? You know, we're shopping guys around that don't go any further than the office space itself. Like, the media never gets a handle on it. So there's stuff that you have to keep in your back pocket. This one was a good one because, you know, the media, the Philly media can be pretty hardcore.
Yes.
And it's the last thing you want to do is have your player have to deal with that unnecessarily. Right. So, you know, that being said, the Flyers knew that he didn't want to be a Flyer.
Right.
And he
Which
hasn't.
still blows my mind.
Yeah, right. Well, let's dig into that one. You know, like, there's a few reports coming out. Elliot Friedman, you know, Spin Chicklets guys. Like, you know, where does this come from? Like, I don't buy into anybody influencing his decision to want to leave Philly, right? Outside of his agent and maybe his parents, right? There's a lot of opinions that you might hear. You might have some buddies that, you know, say a thing or two, but you're a first round pick. You got the red carpet rolled up, to an organization. There has to have been something, within that core group of decision makers, being his agent, his parents, that influence him. Not Kevin Hayes,
right?
Not anybody else. He's a big boy. He's got big boy.
Well, Well, I spoke with Hazy right when all this was coming out. We talked, and he's like, yes, I know the kid. He goes, I would never tell him. I loved Philadelphia. I wouldn't tell him not to sign there. And I said, Hazy, if you did, and he listened to just you,
yeah,
he's an idiot anyway.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for saying that, but it's true. Even if Hazy did do that, well, if that kid's going to make a decision off of Hazy, it didn't take anyone that watches hockey could see that there was an issue with Torts and Hazy and Torts and Tony and Provy, and they're all gone now. If that kid's going to listen to anyone beside his family and his agent and everything like that, then he's obviously mentally weak.
Well, that's it. We can't blame. Yeah, exactly. And you can't blame it on people sharing their opinions, even if that was true.
Right.
The reality is everyone knows Torts. You know what you're going to get with Torts.
Right.
He's a demanding coach. There's no secret there.
Right.
So anything that's Hayes or anybody else would have said to convince is not new information. That was Hazy's situation with Torts. That's his own issue.
Yeah.
That's gone. Obviously he moved on. But that doesn't bring in anybody else. It certainly doesn't bring in a new, freshly drafted first round pick.
Right.
That doesn't. It shouldn't have any effect on that. So, but what we do know is that somewhere in that pocket he decided in May of last year he did not want to be a Flyer. So right. You're forcing the organization's hand to obviously have to move him. Again, the time span from then to now is, what is that? 8 months or so. A World Juniors, a championship later. He has a great showing. They win. His stocks are high. The time is right.
Yep.
But I think what we somewhat know is that when he first got drafted. He was so
horny.
Yeah, he's horny. He wanted to be a Flyer.
Yes.
Of course he did, right?
Yep.
I mean, you wouldn't say that unless
Who wouldn't?
Yeah, right. Stare him right in the eye, say you want to be a Flyer. He goes back to college, has a good year. So Chuck gets fired 2 days later, his season ends, and he wants to become a Flyer. He wants to turn pro. And from what I understand, they didn't have any cap space to squeeze him in.
Yeah.
And there was apparently a PTO, American League, contract that he could have taken. I understand. He didn't want it, and that's fair enough. You have the right to say no.
You do. You also haven't played a pro game in your life.
Well, yeah.
But you're right. That's his decision.
Yes. He's a first round pick. He just thinks highly of himself, so as he should, and so does his agent, his parents. So there's some, obviously some, some coddling and some, direction that they're kind of giving him. But then it seemed to have turned sour, or whether, again, I don't know, you don't know. Was it like, okay, well, now you didn't find a way to open up a contract for me that I'm going to be hostile and I'm going to be resentful for it? I don't know, but like the reality is something turned there.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, if you don't want to be a Flyer, and if your opinion and your feel towards your situation turns that sour that quickly, like, we can't help you. You know what I mean? It's like if you have that strong feelings because they're in a jam with a cap issue and they couldn't make it work for 16 or 17 games, I think it was, at the end of the season.
Right.
And that's the way you're going to kind of turn, your attitude's going to change, then, I mean, it's clearly showing his colors. You probably don't want that guy long-term anyways.
Well, exactly. I thought the Flyers handled this unbelievably well, especially their interview. Like, obviously, they're going to get Jonesy jumped right in between periods and just said he didn't want to be a Flyer, so we don't want you either. And there's nothing wrong with him saying that. And Torts said this, Torts said the same thing. He's like, if you don't want to be here, we don't want you. And they got a second round pick, and they got and we got a right-handed D shot, and you got him now. Yeah. Right? Like, you're not waiting, so I don't know. I have to applaud the Flyers for this whole situation. Thought they handled it great. Yeah. Of course, we didn't know what was going on, which is usually you hear whispers here and there, right? Like with things like this, but never heard anything. And someone had said that he's going to go out west there and win a cup with Zegras. Well, Zegras might not be there,
Yeah.
according to some reports.
Sounds like they're getting shopped
Baller
around.
and Debo, the unbelievable insiders, have both said that they're trying to trade Zegras.
Yeah.
But who knows? But anyway, just a wild night, and it kind of took away from I don't want to say a bad effort, because I think the Flyers play hard every night, but just a tough game against
game.
Penguins. It kind of took the spotlight away from the game that we ended up losing, I think 4-1. But crazy couple days here.
Yeah, and I'm sure the next day or two there's going to be more information that's kind of funneling through. They were supposed to have made a statement that addressed it, but it sounds like they're just staying silent. At this point, they might want to think about coming out with a statement, because again, everyone speculates. There's all this misinformation out there. This person, that person saying stuff. We don't really know. But what we do know is he's no longer a Flyer. We got to move on. It's just a little drama, a little extra, unnecessary nonsense. But
it will be fun when he comes to town.
Oh yeah. He's not going to want to play in Philly.
Hey, Philly flu.
You almost kind of wish that he played on the East Coast here, and
was
visiting Philly a little more often.
A little more, so it kind of goes away, right? It'd be like Yoni picking up. Play Jordan 2-2. My tum-tum
hurts.
My tum-tum hurts.
But it's this is part of sports. This stuff happens.
Yeah.
You got high-end picks getting influenced because they gotta want to go into the best situation that they can to go into, and if for some reason they didn't feel like that, they have the right. Everyone's got the right to have an opinion, and it's just like, does it reflect well? Probably not, but
no.
But the reality is it is a business. If you're not happy with your situation, you have that luxury to go elsewhere. You got, your stocks are high.
They could have made him sit for 2 years, but then you lose him. Totally, right?
Yeah.
Like after
you don't want to do that.
No,
you don't want to create that hostage type situation. So
I saw a lot of people kind of comparing it to Eric Lindros, which really isn't the same, because Eric told Quebec, "Don't draft me because I'm not going to sign."
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's different.
That was a generational player, obviously, way different. But anyway, crazy.
Yep.
Crazy.
Life goes on.
Flyers get better.
Yep.
Keep building.
That's right. And the attitudes to me has been good, and it's trending in the right direction. So it was a move that they had to make, and you just got to move on, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you just got to adjust. That's the name of the game. So what else you got, Nas? A couple other announcements.
Well, your boy Bedsy ain't going to be pulling off any mishies for a few weeks. Got his unfortunately got his jaw broken.
Yeah.
Where's your take on that hit? I know we talk about hits a lot, but I don't know what you're supposed to do anymore, to be honest with you.
I struggle with it because it appears to be, a larger guy just dropping the shoulder, planting it, which would normally be in the someone's chest cavity.
It would be right here on me, too.
But you got a smaller guy leaning over. I mean, lands up being right in the jaw, unfortunately. So... I mean, I don't think his intentions were impure. I thought he was just playing. He's a hard guy. He plays hard. Yeah. So, I mean, answers the bell, the whole bit. It's just unfortunate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, keeps reminding you that you do have to keep your head up. And there's going to be guys that are trying to stop you with the physical body. So it's unfortunate that the shoulder drops to the head. To me, it's not a head shot. It lands up turning into one because you're leaning over that low. But it's unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, it's part of the game. He'll bounce back. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be good.
Wear the bubble, score a few.
Little Bubsy, he'll still score. He's used to it, isn't he, Junior? Well, did he wear a bubble or a cage? I don't even know.
Half shield. It's junior hockey, Nast.
Yeah, you're right. My bad. Well, we have kids that wear bubble. We have.
I know. There's probably couple Bubsies. Your boy Nylander, little extra extension.
8 years, 11 and a half sheets.
It's not bad.
He's raking in your cake. Yeah, I'll tell you what. You and Debo.
So happens when you're skilled, Nast.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you, that's a lot of cake, man.
What'd you do?
What's their cat? Like, how can they have? Are they going to be able to field 20 players for a game? They're paying all these guys so much money.
Better win some games in the playoffs.
He better show up for the playoffs, man. Like,
and never the end of it.
That's a lot of money, but hey, good for him, man.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. Highly skilled player. That's what skill gets you.
Whew.
Gets you a lot of cake.
It does.
All the listeners out there, be a high skilled player.
Be highly skilled.
Highly skilled.
Stay out of the corners. Don't show up for a playoffs. Don't worry about it. You get to go play golf more.
No need to fight. Put your body on the line. Just be highly skilled.
Do not put your
Work
body on the line.
those mitts every day.
You have 100 points in the regular season, and then
Packer.
he is a special player. He really is a good player. So good for him. Hey, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot. Yep. And
USA.
then,
sorry about your boys losing there. You know, I mean,
I think Canada just want to take a year off. Just give the boys, give the other boys a gold medal. Come back next year.
Is that what it was?
Flex, yeah.
Is that what it was? And flex, yeah. You better get some grit on that team. You used to. That's what you used to have that.
We don't do that anymore.
You don't?
Just told you.
Nobody does that anymore.
No grit. We don't need grit.
USA,
you need grit when you got, you know, 20 skilled guys.
Yep.
You don't need it.
Well, you obviously did need it because you lost. But, USA wins a gold. It's awesome. All of us Americans are really happy about it, Riggs.
I bet.
So,
Congrats.
boys.
It's well,
my boy
well
Stan
deserved.
Wong, he was there.
Well deserved.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Nas, we're ready.
We're ready.
142.
Can you believe it?
Probably not.
Can you believe we're wearing the same sweatshirt? That's
twinsies. I can't believe you actually didn't even notice. And we sat
I
here.
didn't, man. I'm rattled. Had a tough morning. That's okay.
But you're good.
Let's do it. I'm good.
A little different episode this week, Nas.
Yeah, for
142 with our friend Brady Leavold, and probably not a very known name in the hockey space, but nonetheless, his story is incredible, and it's just reflective of the mental health issues that not just hockey players or athletes go through, but that regular people go through. A little heavier than normal, eh, Nast?
Yeah, a little heavier, but this will be a great listen for anyone or watch however you tune in to us. But yeah, a little heavier, but man, as he turned his life around, and when someone says to hell and back,
yeah,
he's been there.
Yeah, no joke. So I think we're ready to rock here, Nast.
Let's go.
Before we jump in with our friend Brady Leavold, a little message from our good friends at HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit, Nast.
Yes, it is. And I'll tell you what, not only is it delish, it's quick and easy when you're having a night where you don't have a whole lot of time to prepare. I use it all the time. And I'll tell you what, this time of year, everyone's trying to revamp their bodies, try to get, okay, I'm going to eat better. This is the perfect way. They have a calorie smart menu, protein,
you love that.
which the boys use. So you can't go wrong.
Yeah. Well, I thought you were cooking all the dinners around here.
Well, I mean, we don't tell everyone it's from HelloFresh. I like to look like I'm actually making
got
this
the
stuff,
apron on and everything.
Oh, yeah. I put the hat
Taking
on. I got
all
a
the
hat.
street cred.
We still haven't taken a picture of me.
Oh, we got to
yet,
get that on.
But we
there.
will. It's unreal.
Yeah, well, it's certainly helpful to feed 2 young hockey players and
3.
3. Oh yeah, 3. Yeah, right. Yeah, what am I kidding?
Not Elvie.
Yeah. My bad. Feeding them some nutrient-rich foods.
Yes.
By HelloFresh. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and HelloFresh agrees. In fact, they're giving all subscribers free breakfast for life. That means you'll enjoy a totally free breakfast item with every single HelloFresh delivery. Now that's worth waking up early
It
for.
is, and you know I'm up early.
Oh, you are.
Maybe not as early as you doing your stretches.
But you're getting the brekkie in.
I'm getting it in.
All day, every day.
So, Riggs, what you need to do is go to HelloFresh.com/knucklesfree and use code knucklesfree for free breakfast for life. 1 breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/knucklesfree with code knucklesfree.
What a deal, Nast.
Like we always say, HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit.
Welcome back. I'm Riley Cote.
And I'm Derek Settlemyre. And this week, we are so happy to have a former pro hockey player, does unbelievable work, huge mental health advocate, substance abuse, trauma coach, podcast host as well of Hockey to Hell and Back. It's unbelievable. Check that out. Mr. Brady Leavold. What a special man. Great to have you on, brother.
Thanks so much for having me. And I just stopped the hop. I want to apologize for we were supposed to do this a couple months ago, but I had something come up with my family, and you guys are family men. You understand, and I just appreciate your understanding and your grace, and I'm excited to be here today.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you, Brady. You know, we connected a couple years back, and you know, I hopped on your pod, I think a couple of times, and you know, right out of the gate, I knew that you were special because how resilient you were, you know, in your life story and your situation. And you know, when Nasty and I talked, you know, when we reached out to you, obviously we always wanted to have you on and reached out to you because it's important to share the side of you know, the stories that most hockey families and hockey players are accustomed to. And you know, it's just the dark side of life, really. It's nothing to do with hockey per se. But you know, we appreciate you hopping on, and I really honestly appreciate all the work you're doing, like literally banging the drum daily for the mental health of hockey players and beyond. So props to you for all the work you've done. You know, you say hell and back. I mean, we'll get into all the details, I'm sure, but literally, I mean,
Yeah, it's amazing.
you've risen above and beyond, and you're getting rewarded for it now. So you know, props to you, man. I want to start with that.
Thanks, Coach. And I just want to say too, right? You have hopped on my show a couple of times, and you came on really early when I wasn't really established, and I don't think anybody knew who I was. And if you would have Googled my name back then, it would have all been the negative stuff. And you really led the way in helping me heal just by the modalities that you use, and certainly bringing that to the world of hockey, which was sort of taboo, I think, prior to you really getting out there and preaching things like plant medicine. I don't know if we want to go down that road, but I just want to say how much of an influence you've been to me, how much courage you gave me to start to share the truth and to just be open to other healing methods that for so long were maybe frowned upon, but have been extremely paramount in me getting my life back. So kudos to you for all the work you've done. And I just want to echo the fact that maybe you don't even realize, but you really helped me early on and still to this day. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome. I appreciate
awesome.
Appreciate that. Yeah, no, I mean, we're all here helping each other, right? I think it's a beautiful thing. It's you know, we're all dealing with our shit. You know, we all got our stuff to unpack, and you know, it's just the way of the world. So, I mean, I don't even know where to begin. You know, maybe she's if you want to kind of give a landscape of your minor hockey career, junior hockey career, you know, you landed up going to Tampa Bay Lightning training camp, and just, I mean, I know it's some bit of a long-winded story, but you know, why don't you?
It's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah. Eye-opening to say the least.
Yeah,
and this is reflective of a lot of, you know, situations that exist, you know, within sports, without sports. It's just the sheer fact of the mental health crisis that we're living in. So maybe just kind of lay the landscape and kind of, you know, do what you do and tell your story, and we'll fill in and ask questions.
Yeah, feel free to hop in and cut me off anytime, because I have a tendency to talk and I lose track of time, but I'll do my best to give you the Cole's Notes kind of version. You know, I for as long as I can remember, I've had a stick in my hand, and I loved it. I started playing hockey, you know, around the age of 4 or 5, and thank God that I did, because at the same time I went through two extremely challenging things that unfortunately are a lot more common than maybe people realize. The first is my parents separated and got divorced, and shortly thereafter I was sexually abused, and that was something that I didn't talk about for many years, and up until I was about 32. So you can imagine 5 to 32 carrying that dark secret was pretty heavy. And like I said, thankfully I had hockey, because hockey was the only thing that I seemingly could do to take my mind off of all the confusion, hurt, pain, all the things that I was going through. And I always say hockey was my first addiction. Like I really, really, really loved the way that it made me feel when I was playing hockey. And it didn't have to be a game. I didn't even have to have anybody else around. I could just be by myself in the carport stick handling, and that was medicine for me. And I spent a lot of time doing it, and I always say it's no secret. If you spend a lot of time doing something, you're going to acquire some skills and get better at it, and that's sort of what happened. And grew up in Port Coquitlam, so it's about 35 minutes east. No, yeah, east of Vancouver. I'm not a geo guy. I had to like
Me either.
never eat shredded wheat.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, and so I grew up in the era of Pavel Bure, and when I first saw him, I thought, this is what I want to do. This is who I want to be. And I always make the joke, I maybe should have picked somebody else a little bit more attainable. There was only one Pavel Bure, but man, was he exciting to watch as a young boy, and it really just gave me that sort of vision, that passion, and that dream. And I held on to that for quite a long time. And like I said, hockey really mitigated some of the hell that was going on between my ears and at home. And there wasn't a ton of adversity through my first, few years of hockey. I never got cut from a team. I always played AAA. I was always the best or one of the best in my area. And, it's where I felt alive. It's where I felt confident. It's where I felt like I belonged. And, it just, whenever I wasn't doing it, it's all I could think about, because I just wanted to escape all the things that were going on. And, underneath, I was really hurting, right? And doing everything that I could to hide that from everybody, like so many people do and have done in their lives, of figuring out what mask do I have to put on to be okay in this room, or in this school classroom, or this dressing room, or with these people, and doing whatever I had to do to make sure nobody knew what was going on with me. And that worked for a while. But when I moved to Swift Current to follow my hockey dreams with the Swift Current Broncos in the WHL, that's really where things, I think, really started to fall apart, because it was the era of rookie hazing and all that sort of. Man, I got tormented on the daily. And some people can handle that. Maybe it was all in good fun, and it certainly wasn't fun dealing with that on a day in and day out basis. And for some people maybe it wasn't a big deal, but for me, hockey was all that I had, right? And it was the only thing that made me feel accepted and alive, and just the only time when I didn't feel like I was crazy or alone, or just scared that people were going to find out the truth about me and what happened to me. And um, so going through that was really, really hard. There was it was like a day in and day out basis, and it was challenging. For the first time in my life, when I was 16, I remember after my first game, I got an assist, and I called my dad, and my dad was super jacked, right? Like, this is 16 years old playing the Western League. I get an assist. I think it was on the 8th goal in an 8-2 win, but still, it's a point.
Hey,
And
it's a point, man.
they don't ask how, they ask how many. And I was
That's
feeling
right.
pretty good about that. But when I got off the ice, and started to have to deal with all the stuff from the older guys on the team and the vets, and it was really hard, and I just felt like I wasn't being accepted by the guys. And I started to contemplate taking my own life for the first time at 16, while I was while I was supposed to be living out my dream. I started hating going to the rink every day, and because I wasn't willing to talk about what was going on, it came out in other ways, and it almost led people to create their own narrative and to take it upon themselves to make it even harder on me. When and I don't really take shit from anybody. I never really have. Maybe in some ways I have, but most cases I don't. And so I would talk back, or I'd fight back, and because I did that, they would take it take it out even
Right.
harder on me. So,
Yeah.
I ended up leaving that year after that game, because I just felt like I wanted to die, and I felt like I couldn't tell anybody that. And long story short, I ended up going back at 17, and and really started to change who I was and the things that I believed in, my morals for myself, and started to do things that I never imagined me doing, like drinking. And I found out that, I actually liked the way that it made me feel when I drank temporarily because it was a painkiller. Nobody really ever talked to me about that and the dangers that come with that when you're dealing with trauma. And on top of that, it was a way to get in with the older guys on the team and to be that guy and to be the gong show, and I started to be more accepted. So it was like, okay, well, if this is what I got to do, then I'm going to do more of it. And on top of that, it felt like I couldn't stop once I started. And I struggled immensely, and never felt like I could tell anybody. I really truly felt alone, and I feel like I never reached my full potential as a hockey player, not because of my skill or anything. It was because of what was going on between my ears, and it was a really dark place to live in. I really struggled
Let me,
through my.
can
Yeah,
I cut
go
you
ahead.
off and just ask a question? Just I'm curious if you ever like thought about asking for help or you wanting to bring it to the surface, or was that something like later in life, afterthought? Like you were just like hell bent on keeping this a secret and moving forward.
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Coach. Like, so the best way that I can describe it is this: that the stuff that happened to me when I was a kid, it really haunted me, and I started to pay attention like really early on in my life at school or in the dressing room, and I started to hear different language, homophobic language and slurs, and people get picked on, and essentially I watched their lives get ruined on stuff that wasn't even true, right?
Yeah.
And it could be a really hard place to navigate. Meanwhile, I'm thinking to myself, shit, man, like if they find out that this happened to me, like then what? On top of that too, and I don't say this lightly, and often I don't even bring it up, but there was a large period of time in my life where I actually questioned, like, am I gay? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was a really hard world to navigate because I was abused by an older guy. And as a young boy, it's like, well, I'm not attracted to men, but because this happened, does that make me? And it was like this huge battle between, myself all the time of wanting to maybe get help, but so scared of what does that look like. And I mean, there was other things too,
Yeah.
but that's just the prime example. And so, there was a time when the coaching staff, Dean Chanel, who's now the assistant in Toronto, he was my coach in Swift, and he brought in a sports psychologist by the name of Max Offenberger, who is just a tremendous human being. He worked with the Tampa Bay Lightning for years and other teams, but though I maybe felt safe in talking to him, there was a big part of me that was like, "Nah, I don't know if I can really dive in here and tell him, because eventually if I tell him the truth about how I'm feeling and that I'm contemplating taking my own life, and like, am I going to still be on this team? Am I going to be in the psych ward? Because I was 17 years old. I was not an adult yet. He would have to tell the coaching
Right.
staff or my
Right.
parents, right? So I consciously knew this, and I was like, you know what? I am not, no way. I'll give them a little bit, like, because they know I'm struggling, they can see it, but I'm not going there at all. And that was, just reaffirmed that, like, nah, I'm never going to tell anybody, and I'm going to get through this on my own. And I finished my first
Nice.
full year in Swift Current. I got the Rookie of the Year of the team for the Broncos, and it should have been a moment that was a happy one, on the same trophy as Joe Sakic. It's kind of a big moment in my life, but by that time I was really starting to fall apart. I was drinking a lot. Um, a really important part that I share, especially with the young youth, but especially hockey players, is that leading up to this point, I had a very, very strong stance on drugs. Like, that will never be part of my life. I've never seen them. I don't want to be around it. I had friends through high school that started to go down that path, and I just removed myself from that because, I was a hockey player, and that was going to be a problem of me attaining my dream. And just that I was almost honestly kind of scared of it. And I went to this music festival in the summer of 2005. It was right after I graduated high school, and it was called Merritt Mount Music Festival in BC. And there's several of these across Canada, the United States, where it's like a 4 or 5 day long festival, tons of different artists. And it was really the first time that I went away without any real parental supervision. And it was coming off graduation, and it was sort of like the party's on, right? Even though we're underage, parents were
Look out.
buying everybody was, the parents are buying kids who are underage alcohol, where it's almost like encouraged, and it doesn't seem like it's that bad because it's so ingrained in our culture that this is what happens, that there was never really even a moment where I was like, hey, this is kind of getting out of control. It just sort of felt like the rite of passage. And I went to this music festival, and I came across there was hundreds of people there that I knew, like thousands of people there, but hundreds of people that I knew, hockey players, non-hockey players, whatever. And it was a great time to start. And, I'm drinking, and first day, these guys come up to me, hockey players. I'm not going to name who they were, but guys that I looked up to, and they came up to me, and, they held up their hand, and they're like, hey man, you want to try this? And they held up their hand, and they had ecstasy pills in their hand. I'd never seen them before. I didn't really know what they were. And like a couple things happened. One, I was immediately disgusted. Like, no, I'm never doing that. But two, it's like, wait a second, you guys are doing this right now? Because like, I didn't think that this was a part of, the journey of a hockey player. And these were guys that, one of them had played a couple games in the NHL, one had played World Juniors, won a gold medal, like guys that I really aspired to be and looked up to. Clearly I didn't know too much about the scope of what it looks like to be a professional hockey player, an adult in society, but I was really surprised to see them. But I said no, right? Second, third day, same things happening. Peer pressure starts to kick in. Come on, man, don't be a pussy, or we're doing it's not that bad. Plus I'm drinking, my inhibitions were lowered, and I think on the third or fourth day I broke down, and I'm just like, you know what, like screw it, like give it to me then, right? And I remember I took that pill, and it was sort of like the floodgates open. You don't know until you know, right? And it was like, where the hell has this been my whole life? I want to feel like this as much as possible. I don't care
Yeah.
about hockey.
Yeah.
I don't care about anything else. Like this is the ticket. I mean, it's all temporary, but when you're young and you're in that dark spot and you're just hanging on for dear life, anything to make you feel better, it's like, whoa. And it's just like I couldn't stop. And I just carried on and didn't train, went back to Swift Current, and had very little understanding of what binging on alcohol and drugs does to the brain and to the mental and to our mental health. And all of a sudden I just leave to Swift Current and stop the drinking, stop the drugs about a week before, because I'm like, oh shit, I got to go to training camp. And I got there and I had a complete mental breakdown. I felt like, again, I couldn't tell anybody. 7 games into the season, I only had 1 goal, wasn't playing well, didn't want to be there. I actually packed my truck and drove 14 hours straight back to BC without, I think I told my coach, didn't even call him. Like, I packed my truck, went to the rink, walked into his office and said, hey, I'm out of here. There's nothing you can do to stop me. I got to go. And I ended up like driving home and thinking that, this was the only option that I had. Now that I'm 36, I realized that, like, shit, there was a lot of people that wanted to help me that would have been able to help me.
Yeah.
But I felt like that didn't exist. And if I told anybody, then my life was going to be over. Little did I know my life was already starting to crumble. And I mean, long story short, I went home, played in the BCHL, and did really well. I had like 9 points in my first 3 games, playing on a line with Kyle Turris, and they illegally paid me some money to come play for them that I inevitably spent on partying. And, I ended up getting traded to Everett. This is kind of a crazy story that I don't share often. So I told Dean, I was like, when I went into his office, I'm like, you could trade me to the Vancouver Giants or the Everett Silvertips. If it's not them, I don't even care if I play hockey. Like, that's where I'm at, right? This was my mindset. It's just terrible, right? So anyways, I go to Berube.
And is your mindset? Okay, go ahead. I was going to say your mindset, like you're just being more reactive now because of your frustration with life and their situation, right? Yeah. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, like not even thinking big picture, just like I had been my whole life. It's like, oh, I'm feeling shitty, pick up my hockey stick. That's my medicine. It was like start to drink, boom, drugs, whatever, with no real understanding of sort of the power of my choices on myself and others and all of that. And I ended up getting traded to Everett about a month into my time with the Express and the BCHL. They'd given me this money. I'd spent the money. I got traded to Everett. And I remember Kevin Constantine called me and was like, hey, Brady, like, we're really excited to have you. I know I did want to play for Everett my whole life. When they were the expansion team, that was like the dream team I wanted to play for and the whole thing. And so, like, I should have been excited, but I was like a mess. And he called me. He's like, you're going to be playing with like Peter Mueller and Zach Hamill, 2 first rounders. Like, you got a good shot at being drafted this year. I'm going to teach you how to play defense because I know you suck at playing in your own end, pretty much is what he said.
We all do. Yeah.
Which was true. And I remember I hung up the phone and my buddy was there with me, non-hockey guy, but a buddy of mine. I'm like, shit, man. I'm like, I'm not going. He's like, what do you mean you're not going? I'm like, I'm not going. I'm like, you got to call him back and pretend to be me and tell him you're not coming, that I'm not coming. So my friend, Mike, called Kevin Constantine, was like, hey, this is Brady Leavold. I'm not coming. And he hung up the phone on him like that. Like,
no way.
So unprofessional,
Oh
like
God.
to Kevin Constantine, right? My dad, who's scouted in the Western League for like, I don't know, 20 years now, probably. He was away. And he actually works for Everett too, not then, but does now. And he was away on a conference, and he had no idea. Like if he was home, he would have made sure I got there. But by then, I had already said no, and the trade went back to Swift Current. And long story short, it didn't take long for me to get kicked out of my house. My dad tried to help, but I can't get into all the details. I was a mess. That I left. I went and moved in with my friend, and ended up. I got to get through this kind of quick. I ended up going back to Swift Current. I called Dean in July of my 19-year-olds, like going into my 19-year-old season. I was like, look, I made a huge mistake. I really want to come back and play. He's like, you're probably not going to make our team, not because you're not good enough, but because like you've had problems here and you've walked away on the team and all the things. He's like, but if you come, we might be able to find you a place to play. And so I went. Ended up making the team for the first half of the year. It didn't matter what I did. I was on the fourth line, maybe third line here and there. Started to fight a lot, but really struggling off the ice, missing practices because I'm too drunk to wake up and just trying to drown out my pain, and really caused a lot of problems off the ice. I ended up getting traded to Kelowna in my 20-year-old year, and I don't really know why I had such a good year. And like, I don't even care about the numbers. I think I had 70 points and 26 fights and led the team in goals in playoffs in the first round. And like, I don't even look at that and be like, that's my best year. I just know that from a mental health standpoint, where I was at in my life, like I felt really good about going to the rink and playing hockey. I didn't have any expectation of playing pro hockey. It was all about just, this is my last year and it's going to be fun. I'm going to go be a firefighter because, as you guys know, hockey is a very small world. And when you have the problems that I just listed, it was a lot worse than that. People know, right? When you get your friend to call Kevin Constantine and tell him you're not coming, like it's not a good look, right? And again, because I didn't tell anybody, guys, about anything, and I would deny or deflect, it just opened up a whole can of worms for them to create whatever story that they wanted to believe. And so I just thought there's no way I'm going to make it to pro hockey after I quit and all this stuff. Anyways, my agent called me for the first time in a couple of years. He's like, hey, Brady, like there's a bunch of teams calling about you because you had a really good year. And, what do you think? And I was like, well, shit, like, how do you say no to that? Right.
Yeah.
Like, like even though up to that point I was like, I'm just gonna be a fireman. But when your agent calls and it's like, here, like NHL contracts in front of you, NHL teams, it's like, well, I guess like this is all I know, so I'm gonna try it. I ended up signing the wrong contract. And again, I don't want to get into the details. Maybe I'll write it in my book, but somebody owned the Tampa Bay Lightning at the time, or was in the process of acquiring it, let's just say, who his son played on my team in Kelowna and made a lot of promises, but then he got into some trouble in his own personal life and stuff. So, I mean, I was down on the when that stuff happens, he's not worried about me. He's worried about his own life, and I don't hold anything against him for that. But I signed the wrong contract. Needless to say, I signed with the Tampa Bay Lightning organization. And again, you think like, okay, shit, man, like you're right there. You got an opportunity. This is what you've dreamed about since you were a young boy. But right in around that time, I was like heavily introduced to cocaine, and it was like that was all I could do. And didn't train, and you guys know pro hockey is a big step up from the Western Hockey League. Even at the East Coast level, like it's a big step up. And I found out real quick that I wasn't in the best state physically or mentally to be there. And 4 games into my American League career, that's all I played. I blew my knee out and was prescribed Oxycontin, and that's sort of where that's sort of where the rails really, if they weren't already off, they really fell off. And within a matter of months, I essentially lost everything, including my family. I was a young dad at the time, and my hockey career, and eventually it turned me into a full-blown addict of every street drug you can imagine: heroin, crack, crystal meth. I was doing it all. 2014, I was homeless on the streets in Vancouver, downtown East Side, where I spent close to a year. And you can imagine when you're that desperate, things are not in a good place. And it's, I was something that I really have paid attention to, and something that's very clear to me. And it's not like I made this up. I've heard this from so many people, is that you are the average of the five people you hang out with the most. And
That's right.
I can attest to that from everywhere that I've gone, whether it be minor hockey, junior hockey, pro hockey, in rehab, homelessness, being a drug addict. It eventually, the people you hang out with, the things that they're doing, you will do. And that's what happened. And started, I had no money, nowhere to live, no friends, no family supporting me anymore. I should say that, like, I went to rehab like many times, to no avail, and just felt like I was never going to get through it or get over it. So I'd kind of given up at this point and started to commit petty crimes to get my fix on a daily basis. And pretty soon, the former pro hockey player was now on the cover of Crime Stoppers in Vancouver. And I remember being a little boy watching TV, and a Crime Stopper commercial comes on, and they're looking for somebody, and I'm
Yeah.
hiding under the blankets. I'm like, holy shit,
Yeah.
this guy's coming, to get me, right? Like, and
Yeah.
now that was me. And that was, at the time, I don't know if it was that hard, because I was just so mentally distraught and addicted, but I ended up getting picked up and sentenced to a couple years in jail. So again, not like I was just in there for a night or a week. It was a couple of years. And if you've seen any TV or movies about what it's like, it's pretty damn close,
Wow.
to what it's like. And when I got sentenced to jail, it was front page news of the Vancouver Sun and Province, which is the biggest newspaper in Vancouver. And it was pretty embarrassing. But from the jail standpoint, it's not like I can look back at this stuff and laugh now because I'm not there, but it actually, I'm sure, as you guys know, hockey players get a little bit of special treatment. It's no different in jail. All the real gangsters and stuff, they were like, oh, they thought it was like cool that I was a hockey player, so they started to take care of me more. And I just, in there, it's survival, right? So you got to do things and say things and act a certain way. And I learned how to do that real quick. And it was hard being in there, though. And I spent a total of just under 3 years of my life I've spent in jail. And like,
Wow.
Jeez.
right, like that's a long time, and
That's
That's a long time.
time that I'll never get back. But with the work that I'm doing here today, and we'll get into that, it sounds crazy to say this, but I'm very grateful that I went through what I went through. I'm so grateful that I was homeless, so grateful that I went to jail, because it gave me a totally different perspective on what people are dealing with. While I was in jail, I helped a couple people graduate with their GED, right? Like, some guys that couldn't even write their own name. And it just made me realize, like, okay, I went through some shit when I was a kid, but these guys that I met in there, some of them, they went through more in an hour than I ever did in my entire life. And it just gave
Yeah.
me a real good understanding, and perspective on just what people are dealing with, and sort of, from a homelessness standpoint, from a jail standpoint, what services are available, what services aren't available. Like, this is the kind of the work that I want to be doing in the future. Like, right now, I'm really into hockey, and I will always be. I'm coaching and doing things, but my heart, I have a very big sense that it called to help people who are homeless and people who are in jail when they're getting out, because you get out it happened to me. You get out to nothing,
Nothing.
with
Yeah.
nowhere to go, with no plan. And I saw the same people, and I mean, it happened to me too, where they would get out, they've been in for 6 months, and then it's like they're getting out, they're gonna, get their life back on track, but then they get out to nothing, and I see them in 3 days, they're back in jail.
Back
And
in jail.
and
Yeah.
right? And it's such a crazy cycle that people get caught in. But anyways, that's maybe for another day. I got out of jail and the last time, and to sit here and say that I just turned my life around overnight would be a lie. Like I struggled for a few months, like from November to like February, November 2019 to February 2020. I fell back into my kind of old ways of using and things, but something changed. I found out I was going to be a dad again, and I thought to myself, if there's one reason for me to try one more time to get my life back, then this is it. I don't want to, I have a couple kids that I, let down, and still, as we're sitting here today, I'm still trying to repair those relationships. They're older now; they're 15 and 16. It's a really hard thing for them to deal with, but I knew that I didn't want to do that again, and so. Um, the Swift Current Broncos actually sent me a pair of skates the first time I got out of jail, and with like a letter that said, "Hey, forget about your old life. Get back on the ice. This isn't who you are, right? Like,
Wow.
get back on the ice." And I think it's kind of I got to share the whole story. So while I was in jail, somebody got a hold of these skates and pawned them, and this is no joke. Put them in a pawn
No
shop.
way.
So now I get out of jail. And I'm like, go to back to my friend's house where I was staying before, where all my stuff was. I'm like, where's my skates? Like, that's all I want, because I got this brief moment. It had been almost 10 years since I had skates on. But when I got out of jail, found out I was going to be a dad again, I got this, like, I was living in Muskoka. There's frozen lakes everywhere. I kept passing them every day. I'm like, I'm gonna get my skates back on. I thought I never would. But so I go get my skates, and they're like, the guy's like, oh, somebody put them in the pawn shop. So I had no money at the time. I was on welfare, guys. Like, I was on welfare for a while. Even when you first came on my show, Coates, like maybe even the second time, I was still on welfare, right? Like, not like that's where I was at. And I had no money, but my friend was like, "Hey, I got you. We're gonna go there. I'm gonna pay for them. We're gonna get them out." And like, I shit you not, I walked up to the pawn shop, and there's like a glass front window, and there's a Bauer box, right? And these were custom, like, white tongues, like they got them the way that I liked them. And there's one skate out, one skate in the box, and they're in the window, right? And I can see on the sticker, like, they have my name on them, right? Because of, like, from the Bauer thing. And I'm like, yeah, I go in there. I'm like, how much for the skates in the window? And they were like $1,200 skates, Bauer APX or whatever they were back in the day. And the guy's like, $75 in their ears. And he's like, now, whether this is true or not, he's like, there was a lady in here yesterday who said she was going to be coming back to get them for her husband if they fit, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, forget it. They're mine. And I went home, put my skates on for the first time in 10 years. And while I was skating, I kind of got this sense that maybe my story could help just one person, right? Like, I had no money, I had no friends, I had no social media, I didn't own a computer, I didn't have anything, but I thought maybe I could share my story. But how am I going to do that? And that's where I kind of got the idea to start a podcast. And like, if you listen to the first episode, even the first few, even maybe now, they're pretty rough. That first episode, I borrowed somebody's car to sit in the car and their computer, and sat in the car and recorded that first episode, and just kind of decided that, you know what, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to share my story. And right in around that time, I picked up the phone, and I called around, found a therapist that was willing to take me on through the government assistance program and all that. And I got honest. I told her about, what happened to me when I was a kid. That was the first person that I really told. And
Wow.
from there, I started to heal, and I'm still healing. But it gave me a lot of, like, strength to really share my story. And so through doing that, guys, I'm gonna let you guys hop in here in a minute. I found out very, very quickly that I'm not the only hockey player that was really struggling or had really struggled with mental health and addiction. And come to find out, my roommate from Norfolk died of an overdose. My coach, my first year pro, who I was in rehab with, Quentin Van Horlick, intentionally took his own life by overdose. And I just started to uncover stories one after the other. And as we're sitting here today, as of just heard of another one, sadly, 2 days ago, I'm aware of 116 hockey players that have either passed away by suicide or overdose. And I really
That's
wanted to
crazy.
do some. Yeah, I really wanted to do something in their honor. And so I wanted to start an organization. So we have a nonprofit organization that we're slowly getting off the ground called the Puck Support Network, that's really geared towards helping hockey players and hockey families um, who may be struggling, but also trying to be proactive and getting the tools and the information in the hands of parents and young hockey players, that the information that I didn't have and that Mitch Fadden, who's no longer here, didn't have, and just to know that there's support. And so that's a slow process, but that's sort of kind of where it all started. And over the last 4 years, I've just been slowly piecing my life back together.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah, we appreciate you sharing that, man.
Yeah.
I know it's heavy, and for the listeners, the show is generally lighter, but the reality is we have to have stories like these to be real, and
Yeah.
we've had some guys on that have had their struggles, and a bunch of these guys, and but to hear it, hear your story like that is
You think you're having a bad day sometimes,
yeah,
and
I know, right?
we've known about your story, but for our listeners that don't, it's huge, and
Talk about
even
perspective.
parents paying attention to their kids, asking questions, and maybe that was happening for you, but like you said, you were keeping it inside. I did have one question about. You said your last year you had a really good year. Were you were still like partying though, but
Yeah,
you were
no,
just
see, it was interesting. So like I went to Kelowna. I showed up hungover. Dean Chanel drove me to the Calgary airport. He actually called me. He's like, "Don't come to practice today." We played 2 games, and I was heading to practice. It was after, day after a game or whatever. He called me. He's like, don't come to practice. We've traded you, but I can't tell you where yet. I'll tell you on the way." And I'm like, "Oh shit! Like, where am I going?" Right?
yeah.
He's like, "I got a general managers meeting in Calgary, so I'm gonna drive you to the Calgary airport." So now I got to be in the car with Dean for like 5 hours, to the airport, and the whole way he's not telling me. And he dropped me off at the airport. He's like, as I'm opening the door, he's like, "You've been traded to the Kelowna Rockets. Now get the fuck out of my car. I'll see you in January." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." Right? And I remember he was like nice about it. He's like joking, like he was
Yeah.
always so great to me. So I went in the hotel, and I remember like I cleaned out the minibar fridge, like just cleaned it out. Like I was 2 sheets to the wind by myself, flying to Kelowna hungover. Jeff Finley, former NHL D-man, picks me up because he's assistant coach. And I'm like, I just remember feeling like garbage. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why? Like, why do you do this to yourself, right? He's like, "We got to get you to the rink, and Kelowna is a lot different than Swift. So there's TV cameras and reporters, and I've got to do these interviews." And I'm like, "Shit, do I smell like booze?" Like, get there, find out they already have 3 20-year-olds. One's the captain, who's from Kelowna, so he's not going anywhere. One's the goalie who took them to the Mem Cup when he was 17. He's not going anywhere. And the third one was Mark Messier's kid. So I'm like, holy shit! Like, where am I fitting into the lineup?
Oh,
Needless,
jeez.
I come in, and I'm not in a good spot. And I remember I went on the ice, had to get all new gear, the whole thing, and the kids had a day off, and by kids I mean the young kids on the team were 16, 17-year-olds. It was like a pro D day or whatever on a Friday, and the goalie coach was there. He's like, "You want to go out early and kind of get used to your gear?" Ryan Huska was the coach, and he's like, I'm like, "Sure." Like, what am I gonna say? No, I don't really want to, but I can't say no. So I go out
Yeah.
there. It's Tyson Barrie, Tyler Myers, Luke Shen, Jamie Benn, like. I'm just like, and these are the young guys on the team, and I'm thinking to myself, like, holy shit, like, what the hell's going on here? I didn't even really know who any of them were. I remember calling my dad, like, "Who the hell's Tyson Barrie, this 16-year-old? Like, he's unbelievable." And the reason why I bring that up is because no, I didn't really drink that year, right? I realized that we had a really special group of young players, and they ended up going to the Mem Cup the year after. But I thought, you know what? I got together with the older guys on the team, and we made a real like conscious decision that we were going to treat everybody as equals on this team, and where there's going to be no pressuring for anybody to drink or, anything like that. And it didn't happen. And I think I drank maybe 2 or 3 times the entire year, which is more than I would have
Wow.
liked to. But instead of like 5 nights a week in Swift Current, I loved going to the
Hmm.
rink. I felt like we were a team. I felt like I had something to play for, which was them, not myself. And yeah, I just had a really, really fun year, and wish I could go back and spend one more day in Kelowna and just soak up all that time, because it was a really, really great experience.
Wow.
Nice. I gotta say, Kelowna is a little different animal than Swifty.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
The crush can, and I think that Kelowna barn was somewhat new at that time, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
was
Oh yeah.
some bit fresh, but Kelowna obviously as a city, a little more to
Little
look
different.
forward to than
Little
El
different.
Well,
Swifty. But
I grew up there in the summertime, just outside of Kelowna. My dad's got a place on Okanagan Lake, and it was sort of like familiar, and got to play at home a little bit more, and my family was able to visit. But I'll tell you, it was just about knowing that, the guys in the room, like we all felt like we were equal, and it was just an enjoyable place to go to every day, which can be the world of difference, whether you're walking into an office, a hockey dressing room, or wherever you are in this world. If people are working together and treating each other with kindness and supporting one another, it can really make or break somebody. Some people that might not affect them too much, but for somebody like me, that can make the world of difference.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no doubt. And let me ask you this, Brady. Like you mentioned, like you kept your traumas, deep down within until you're out of jail. So that's most of your life. And I know you wouldn't change it for the world, because you wouldn't be here today, alive and well and doing all this great work, had you not gone through, literally hell and back. Like, but for the young listeners or the parents of the listeners, on the pod here, like, how important is it to be vulnerable? Yes, you're being vulnerable now, but like, if you could go back in time in a different lifetime and give some advice, like, how important is it to tell these young kids, like, if you're going through shit, like, and you're hanging on to something so deep, like, how important it is to bring it to the surface and actually talk and get some help? Because no one deserves or needs to go down that dark, right? To find themselves in. You've done it. It's almost like you've sacrificed yourself to be able to be doing this work here now. But like, we don't want these younger guys to go down, and the trauma
No.
is the root of most addiction and substance abuse. So like, could we get ahead of this? How could we help navigate this moving forward for some of these young guys dealing with issues?
Well, I have a saying that is even on, I have a clothing line as well, that, one of the sayings is vulnerability is strength. And, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you're right. I wouldn't change anything. But the reality is this: most people don't make it out of what I went through.
Right.
I had more overdoses than I can even remember, more suicide attempts, and more months in the psych ward, and like most people just don't make it out of what I've come through, and I realize that. I will say this, that regardless of what you're going through, regardless of what it is, I promise you that there's way more people in this world than you could ever believe that have gone through or going through similar things. Like, you are not alone. You are never alone in this, though it
Right.
may feel like you are. But somebody told me, like, early on, when I was first, like, my first kind of time in rehab, and they said, like, this is a progressive disease, like, it will only get worse. And I'm like, like, okay, like, it's pretty bad now, but I got a handle on this. There's no way it can get any worse. Let me tell you, it only gets worse if you don't. If you're not willing to address it and start to help yourself, um, it will get worse. And for me, like, vulnerability is what saved my life. It
Yeah.
instantaneously took the world off my shoulders, so to speak. It doesn't mean that because I told that therapist, and because I go around and I talk about the things that I've gone through, and I've sat here and told you what happened to me, that doesn't mean that I'm 100% healed and that I'm not still hurting on some days. That's not what this means. But what it means is that I'm now in the process of healing, and it also is, like, it keeps me accountable by people knowing what's going on with me. It sets me up for a way higher rate of success in recovery. And that's for anybody. I only talk about me because I can only share my story. I don't like to say you, or I just say me. And I hope that by me talking about my story, that people can take pieces and relate it to their own. And that's sort of what I've seen over the past almost 4 years is, I didn't have any following or anything, but as that started to grow, I started to get inundated with, like, thousands of messages from people across the world that would usually start something like this. hey, Brady, I really just want to say thank you for what you're doing and your vulnerability. You don't know me. I've never told anybody this before, but, and then it will be any number of things. And what that shows me is that they see somebody else who is vulnerable and somebody else who is going through it. And now all of a sudden they don't feel alone. They feel a little bit taller, a little bit stronger, a little bit more courage in there to share their story. And that doesn't mean that you have to get in front of 500 people and tell your story. What it means is like talking through, like being able to talk. And if you have to cry, right? If you have to get angry sometimes, like get angry, like move through those emotions, allow them, allow yourself to feel that, allow somebody else to help you navigate that. And for me, that's sort of been that was at the beginning, and still now that's sort of how I run my life. Is I carry the message on a daily. You talk about banging the drum daily. There is some part of it that, obviously helps me, but I know by doing that, it's helping somebody else. And I feel a great responsibility because I've lived through it. I've lost friends, more friends than like a lot of friends, hockey players and non-hockey players who have gone through things like I have, who are no longer here. Like I feel a great responsibility to share, because I see the power that my story or anybody's story has when we're willing to get vulnerable.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing. I mean, I have my own experience with being vulnerable too, and it makes my story look like like a Disney show.
Yeah.
When you talk
I want to
about,
interrupt you for a sec. So I get this all the time, right? It's like, well, Brady, I didn't go through what you went through, or it's like we want to compare all the time. And this is sort of what I was talking about earlier when I use the example of like being in Swift Current and, the rookies getting some hazing or whatever. This person might handle it differently than this person because this person's dealt with different things. Their perspective is different. Just because, it looks like somebody might have gone through something more than you or whatever. Like, one, we shouldn't be comparing, but two,
right, of course,
your pain could be more significant than mine, even though my situation may look maybe a little bit more challenging to go through, right? It's all an individual's perspective. So I get where you're going with that, but at the same time, I think it's important for us to remember that like we all have our own story and we all deal with it differently. So like comparing stories and that it's not really the best way to, for me anyways, to approach it. I'm always like, hey, you went through something, your feelings are valid, like
totally,
100%, right? So
yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but
no, and I fully agree. And I was kind of just making a joke more than anything. Like I agree with you fully. Like, I don't like to compare trauma to trauma, because it's exactly what you just said. Pain is pain, and it doesn't have to look like a Hollywood movie to validate the pain. Physical, emotional, spiritual. I mean, so and I agree with you fully. I'm not certainly not disputing it. It was more of a joke. Like,
I know. I know you were joking. I just had to. I had to.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that, because it is important to not compare.
Yeah, for sure. And Brady, you have a pretty cool thing coming up here. I believe it's January 20th, Hockey Day in Canada. If you want to tell us a little bit about that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's again, I'm sorry for talking so much here. You guys have only asked
hey, that's what you're on here for, man.
Three questions, and we're almost an hour in. And by the way, I got lots of time. I don't know how much time we have, but I got all day for you guys. So yeah, like January 20th, Hockey Day in Canada, they're going to be sharing my story, and something that has been a very powerful tool for me is manifestation. And some people are stronger believers in it than others, I'll just say. And let me tell you, I was a little bit skeptical, but over the last 4 years, I've manifested more things in my life than I even care to tell people, because they'll be like, you're lying or whatever. But it's an extremely powerful tool. And leading into the Hockey Day in Canada story, it was the very first Saturday of the year here in Canada. First broadcast of Hockey Night in Canada for the 2024-2025 season, or 2023-2024 season. And I was just about to, walk outside to grab something from my car, and I had my my iPad watching one of the games, and I was just about to walk out the door, and I looked back at my girlfriend on the, and I'm like, said, I'm going to be on hockey night in Canada. I said, I don't know how, but I'm going to be on hockey night in Canada. And she's like, okay. And not even two, not, but like she's seen it. I did the same. I've done the same thing with her so many times, even like manifesting coaching with Sam Gauthier, and maybe
Yep.
I'm going to touch on that here in a second, but
Mhm.
manifested before it even came true. And I said that, and 2 days later, I got a message in from on Instagram from a producer from Sportsnet and Hockey Night in Canada saying, "Hey, Brady, I've been following you for a long time, and I'd really like to share your story on Hockey Day in Canada this year." Not even 2 days
Wow,
later, out of the blue. Um,
it's crazy.
and so I'm like sitting beside her. I'm like thinking like, okay, this is like a like kind of a fake account. He doesn't have a ton of followers, this guy, because he's a producer. He's not a social media guy. I'm like, is this real? And next thing you know, we're hopping on a call, and he's like, we want to come film you. We're gonna fly you out to Edmonton to go see Sam Gauthier because he's been a big part of my story. He gave me a really great opportunity 2 years ago, to start coaching. Well, I'd already been doing some coaching, but to really get in with some of the best players in the game today. And and I was given that opportunity, and I kind of sort of just have run with it. And something that I'm very grateful for and that I take a lot of pride in is being a part of Muskoka hockey, which is it started but founded by Sam Gauthier here in Muskoka, where a lot of the NHL players come to reside in the summertime. It's a little bit of a Canadian paradise where I live, and yeah, and so he's going to be featured in the story, and really, it's just kind of like I told you here today of sharing some of the darkness, but also hopefully people can see the light, and hopefully it gives, just my goal is always just help one person. When I wake up in the morning, that's my goal. That was my goal when I first started sharing my story, and I don't think that'll ever change. It's just one person at a time, and if this story can help one person, then I think it's going to be a huge success.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see
Okay, I
it,
know
man.
it's
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
be
happy
great.
for you because like it's like the manifestation is real. I
Yeah,
think the whole world of manifestation is misunderstood. I mean, the reality is whether you were aware of it or not, you are manifesting your hell too. You know,
yeah, yeah,
by the lack of awareness and the what you were attracting, right? And now you're
yeah,
attracting the positive because you're got your mind right
yeah.
and you're surrounding yourself with positive people that support you. You're doing all the right things, and your life naturally changes. So I'm
You've
so
got to
happy for
be.
you because I can't wait to see it and see how this thing
Thank you.
ripples.
You have to be very cautious about what you say, what you watch, what you listen to. I remember, like I skipped through a lot of parts of my story, but from 2012 to 2020, I was an IV drug user, right? Like it wasn't good. I remember being in the sixth or seventh grade, and I remember saying, like with a group of my buddies, I remember looking down at my arms and I had a bunch of veins, and I said to them, like, I'd make a real good drug addict. Like I remember saying that, right?
Jeez.
And needless to say, I'm not blaming me saying that, but it's like I put that out there at an early age, and there's more instances like that, but it is, I think it's something that I'm really trying to tap into of yes, manifesting, but just being very conscious about, how I'm spending my time and who I'm with and what I'm watching, what I'm listening to, and still have a long ways to go with that, but there's a lot more to it, than I think we'll ever understand. But being able to be open, and just sort of, which something that I really wasn't. I was always so closed off because that's sort of how I dealt with things my whole entire life, was like, yeah, I'm not going to let anybody in. I don't believe in anything. I'm just going to worry about me. And the this whole thing, this story on Hockey Day in Canada and my journey over the last 4 years, like, yes, it's centralized around me, but I've never cared for it to be about me. It's always the hope of it being so much more than just my story. It's the hope that people, because I know people can relate to it. I know there's people out there who, like me, for so long have yet to find their voice, and finding my voice was what saved my life, right? Being able
Yeah.
to come forward and talk, and obviously I do it to a pretty broad audience, but that's not how it started. It was just about feeling like, hey, if one now at least one person knows the truth, and it's not me. I don't feel like I'm fighting this alone, and I just
Yeah.
can't reiterate that enough, that was really a game-changing moment for me.
Amazing.
For sure.
I know you've been trying to get a hold of Sam. You were trying to get him on the show.
Gags.
So.
Yeah, so I had Gags here in Philly the one year years back. Great guy, man. I used to laugh. They were Sam and like Jake Voracek, more of the skilled guys. Were literally the one day we're talking about their fights and what their records were. They all got like 5 fights, right? Like in the league. Like
yours, probably.
But Gags fight like he gets pissed off that he'll chuck him. But it was just so funny. And G was in Claude Giroux was in the conversation. They're literally on hockeyfights.com doing their ratings to see if they won the fight. And I just thought it was so fucking funny.
Oh yeah.
With Gags. Like he's like, I'm the toughest guy in here, you know, like it was pretty good. But he's a great guy. Yeah, he's been we've been trying to find time with the schedule. It's so crazy to fit him in, but he wants to jump on with us as well. And I follow you, so I've seen you guys are buddies. That's really cool, man.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
just him and I have become very, very close. Like we talk pretty much every single day, and try to help him as much as I can from, he hasn't, had any sort of struggles like me, but he's, like anybody, I think it's nice to have somebody to be there to encourage you and support you. And that's what I've tried to do for him. And, he had double hip surgery last spring, and it was basically me and him all summer long. I was helping him get back, and there was I just played a small part. It was all him and the doctors and the therapist, but the on ice stuff, 90% of it was me and him. And it was a great honor to help him get back. And when I flew out to Edmonton as part of the story, he, of course he scored in that game. And it was really, really cool. And that was, to me, is about as close as I'm going to get to scoring a goal in the NHL to help him come back from that injury. A lot of people had counted him out, and he's had a tremendous amount of success. Unfortunately, right now going through some injuries. I don't want to say what, but you know how everything's such a secret in hockey. But he's been out since before Christmas, and I know he's got a pretty big day today, getting some things checked out. So hopefully we can see him back in the lineup soon. And the Oilers, they were struggling out the gate, but they're looking pretty good right now. And I'm manifesting a Stanley Cup in Muskoka in the summertime. That'll be
there you go.
There you go.
That's it. So again, I'm more of a fan of the game today and more of a student of the game today than I've ever been. Hindsight's always 2020, but my kind of goal is to just continually get better as a coach, and this is something that I really want to try to see how far I can take it, and have the goal of one day being in the NHL as a development guy, and then hopefully maybe eventually later on in life as maybe an assistant or a head coach. Obviously I have a long ways to go before that, but this is how I want to spend my time, and I believe that I know more about hockey now than I ever have. I still have a long ways to go, but I think there's that added piece of having a guy like me around who is relatable and is real. And I mentor quite a few different hockey players, from NHL players who don't feel comfortable talking to their own team staff, whoever that may be, and a lot of players who play in the WHL, OHL, especially that'll reach out to me from time to time, and whenever they may be going through something. And lived experience is something that you just can't replace in my books. You can read about it, you can have a professional, but if they haven't lived it and they haven't done it, for me, it's very hard to relate to. And so, I just, like, guys, I can't reiterate enough how grateful I am to be a part of this game, right? Like, reflecting back to even 5 years old, from being homeless in jail, talking to people who never even had a chance to play hockey. Like, their parents didn't even watch them, would have never even taken them to public skating, let alone get them into hockey. Like, those are the people that I met along my ways. And it, when I was in it, I took it so for granted. Oh, poor me. I got to go to practice today. Oh, I'm tired. Like, I want to leave the rink right now. And it's like, shit, man, you don't know what you have until it's gone. And I'm more indebted to the game and the people in it, like Sam and so many others who have rallied around me and supported me. And I just feel like that's sort of how I want to live my life. Is I want to do this, continue to do the same, and help people both on and off the ice as much as I can.
Well, the work you do is truly amazing. I mean, it's I don't know how else to say it. It really is, and the help that you're providing for younger and older, guys playing and not playing, not even a hockey player, sees
Yeah.
your story, and it's just great, man.
Yeah, no, for
Well,
sure. Your future is bright, dude. Like,
Yes.
like to have known you for how many years it's been now, and again, you're just kind of like coming into your own and finding yourself, and to see you now, and like 50,000 followers on Instagram. Like, not that it's about the numbers, but like just like it just shows your resilience, and it shows your want to live and help and just be a part of the solution is just like incredible. And like all those dreams you said, it comes with, you talked about it in the manifestation process, self-talk. It starts with the thought, the self-talk, and then it just evolves. Like, there's no question you're going to find your way to the NHL. It's like, and in some way, shape, or form, like, you're doing all the right things. You're surrounding yourself with the right people, the right thoughts. I'd like to think that this Hockey Day in Canada thing is just going to open up
Oh yeah.
more opportunities with speaking, opportunities in organizations. Someone that hasn't heard your story is going to hear it. I've known it. We've known it, but like there's a million people that haven't heard it, and
yeah.
it's going to be a nice ripple. And I know it's not about you, but you're the vessel.
Yep.
You are a vessel, and it's going to help you do your work. Helping
Yeah.
more people and being of service in the game of hockey. That's giving you this experience to be able to do this work. So I mean, it's exciting, man. You should be pumped, and I know you are.
Yeah,
Like,
I know it
really,
is
like, as
exciting.
shitty as it's been,
I
this is awesome for you, man. I'm like so
I
pumped to see you smile like that. And
I cried my eyes out, I'll be honest, a few times, but when I first got that message, I hopped in the car and went for a drive, and yeah, I just let it out. And again, it's been a real long road to get here. There were many times over the last 4 years where it felt like maybe this is a losing battle, for myself and for the cause. And it just seems like any time that maybe I've had some downs or whatever, downtime, or kind of falling back into that negative trap in my mind, there's an opportunity that comes, that it's like a greater plans at work to say, hey, like, just stick with it, be patient. That's something that I've really had to learn over the last few years, like, is be patient. I've been a instant gratification guy my whole life, through addiction, through just the way that I am, and just learning how to trust the process, and to just continually do the next right thing, and to keep battling. Like, it's been a grind. Like, I was on, like I said, welfare for the first 2 years of doing this, and obviously not now, and I'm in a much better place today. But yeah, I'm living proof that people can change, people can start to heal, people can recover, and I really hope that my story can help a lot of people. But if we can help the youth, especially, just to really stop and think about the choices that they're making and the effect that it can have, because I felt, invincible, untouchable, and I was showing very quickly that this can and will affect anybody, especially if you open that door even just a little bit. And I've been very, very blessed that I've been able to travel around Canada, and share my story predominantly with hockey teams, junior teams, academy and prep schools, high schools as well. Even some big corporations have had me come in, and I've always got a great response. And I'm not the best speaker, I'm not the smartest guy, I certainly don't have all the answers. But sometimes, nobody does. But sometimes it's just about being real, being authentic, and when people can relate to that, at least the things that I've seen, is it can really pull them out of their shell. And if we can just save one life, which I get messages almost on the daily of people saying that to me, where I've helped them or whatever. Like, to me, everything that I've gone through has been worth it. I never want to go through it again, but everything that I've gone through has been worth it. And just really grateful to the game of hockey and the people in it, because if I didn't have that, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that I wouldn't be here today.
yeah, no, you're 100% right. And it really just shifts perspective when you hear your story, and just like how real it is, and how close a lot of these guys that seem like they got it all together. If you're not talking about and being vulnerable, we don't know what guys are going through, right? And I think the, the essence of a big part of your message is like, man, you gotta, it's like, we can't assume that you're well,
Yeah,
if you're not, ask for help, and how important that is. And realizing when you do, how many people there are just waiting to help you and wanting to help
yeah,
you. Like I see some of the people, former players and guys that are coming out of the woodworks helping you. Had you kept it quiet, not being vulnerable, no one could ever come and help you. I think
that's
that's
right.
the key here. And it's just going to keep growing. So the
Yep.
message, I mean, like it sounds like to the young people, like open up, be
That's
vulnerable,
it.
ask for help, and there's always going to be a support system there, but they're not going to
Yeah.
know unless you ask.
Yeah. And parents, I have a message for parents too, because so much of the focus is always on like the kids or whatever. But if you're a parent and you recognize that something is off with your son or daughter, right? Trust your instinct, right? I always just played it like my dad, I wouldn't really let him in, but like I talked to him now, like he knew, but he didn't know
He
how
knew.
to deal with that, right? Like he didn't know how because I would keep pushing him away or whatever. But like if you're a parent, like you know best. Like if you recognize something, you're always better on the side of erring precaution. You're not there to be their friend. You're there to be their parent. It just parents like get ahead of this stuff. Like talk to your kids about drugs, alcohol, mental health. Like be open with that in your household and really set a good example because so often kids are going to follow kind of in the footsteps of the example that you lead. And I don't drink. I use plant medicines, and some people can argue that that's not the best way, but I've tried every pharmaceutical known to man for depression, anxiety, addiction, whatever, and it's none of them have helped me. Maybe temporarily they will zonk me out, and to me
Yeah.
that's not what I'm looking for. Um, but yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this. It's just that I feel like very confident where I'm at in my recovery, and I know some people will look at it because it's quote unquote unconventional, but I'm literally thriving at a level that I've never been at in my life, and I'm doing everything I can just to make that right next decision. And really, that ultimately comes down like, what's the next right decision for me, right? So often I was trying to act a certain way or do something or partake in certain events to be accepted by a group or a team or my friends or whatever. And ultimately it comes back to like paying attention. Like if you listen to your intuition, at least for
Yeah.
me, it knows. Like we know a lot more than maybe we give ourselves credit to. It's just about, can you tap into that and can you really listen and then take action on that? Because sometimes it's not easy, right? You get the hard answers and it's like, I don't know if it's easier just to go down the path of least resistance. But if you really want to change and you really want to make a difference in your life, well, start to pay attention and start to take action, and don't always look for that path of least resistance. Because let me tell you, it's going to be challenging, but nothing's as hard as living in the hell that is mental illness or addiction that goes untreated, or trauma, trying to do it by yourself. Like that is hell on earth. And yeah, so that's kind of, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I'll keep talking if you don't cut me off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was well said.
Well
That was well
said,
said.
man. We just can't thank you enough, Brady. Like, I'm excited about this, and
Yeah. I
our
can't wait to see it.
listeners that haven't heard your story to hear it. Truly amazing. God bless you, man.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, and I'm really grateful. I'm a big fan of the show and been watching from afar for 142 episodes now, and really feel very lucky to be on your show, and keep up the good work. And are you guys you guys both in Philly, or like where are you guys?
He's just in Delaware. I'm just over the bridge in Voorhees, right near the Flyers practice facility. So we're
Okay.
fairly close. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. So, how's the state of the Philadelphia Flyers, you think? I got to ask you, where are we at? Because they're
Well,
surprising some people, right?
Yeah, they are a hard team to play against,
Yep.
which is what we needed and what they want. Obviously, you alluded to earlier, we were talking, I think before we started, the whole Cutter Gauthier
Yep.
situation just happened and went down. So it was shit everywhere. But Flyers are playing hard. They're playing well. I don't know if, we'll see what happens here,
It's going to
but
be a grind
it's
for
going to
a
be a
playoff
grind.
spot, but they're on the right. They're on the right course of action with the team. I think with Jonesy and Briere coming in and kind of recreating the Flyers culture to some degree. Torts I think is the guy for the rebuild right now. They're buying in. They're playing hard. So it's trending in the right direction. You got some draft picks coming down the pipeline here that will certainly help. You'd mentioned before we got on that did you train or work out with Drysdale, the newest
Yeah, we
addition to the
had
Flyers there?
Yeah, so we had over the course of the summer, we had close to 40 full-time NHL guys come through at different times. Some were full-time, some were for a week or 2 weeks, and we had Jamie come through. I think he was here for a week when we had the Wasserman camp. Just a phenomenal young man and a great talent. He's unfortunately had some injuries, but if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a very, very nice addition to that blue line. He skates extremely well. He's so mobile on the blue line, extremely hard to defend. I really think he's just starting to find his way and probably will still be a couple years likely from his prime. But I think he's going to fit in really nicely there. We also I'm trying to think of who else we had from the Flyers organization. We had somebody else, but I can't remember who it was. But I think he's in the minors. Yeah, Victor Mets was with us.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Mets was with us for a couple weeks too. Hopefully, maybe he can get a call up, but I'm not sure that the Jamie Drysdale acquisition's any good for him.
It's
But
going to help.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding. That's a good
yeah,
point.
but another great young kid. But I think Philly's gonna be happy with getting JD back, and ultimately, when somebody doesn't want to play for your organization, then let him go, and
Yep.
bring somebody in that wants to be there. And yeah, the Flyers are surprising a lot of people, and I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to play for Torts, but he is the epitome of what I believe to be a Philadelphia Flyer mentality and,
Yeah.
and the way to go. So.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the
Oh, I
truth.
will say last cool thing, a little because we're talking Philly. So last year, and it was just released, they came out with a Borje Salming mini series. I don't know if you guys have seen this at all, but I got to play Bobby Clarke in the movie. I'm only on screen for like a second. They cut my hair and shaved my mustache for nothing. But it was like literally 1 second I was on screen for, but I'm gonna try to see if I can quickly fire up a picture because it was really, really cool. And we'll see what Flyers Nation thinks of my best Bobby Clarke impression here. It's I got it. It was honestly really cool because all my teeth come out, right? So
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me see here. We got the Philly.
I did see a sneak peek of it on I think you're on your Instagram there. I didn't know
Oh,
what it
you
was or
did.
what you're doing, but yeah, it looked pretty
It
pretty
was
spot on. It was good.
it
It was
was
well
it was
done.
it was pretty special to be a part of that and pretty cool. Let me see. I think I don't know where it is. Oh yeah, we're
Yeah,
good here. One sec. You
we'll
gotta
find.
you gotta see it. You gotta see it. Here we go. Let's see. There's my best Bobby Clarke impression.
Oh yeah, you got to send
Oh,
that.
yeah, we
You
gotta
got to
send that
send that
over.
to us so we can put it
We
on
gotta we
there.
gotta pop that on.
That's great.
That is
Actually,
amazing. That's actually
that's really good. You got a wooden twig there, the gloves,
Oh,
everything.
everything. Like
Fuck,
you
that's
walk in and
great.
they had like each player like to a T, what skates, what gloves, what stick, and like yeah, just a really cool experience.
That's
But
awesome.
maybe we can get Bobby Clarke to see that. But yeah, it
yeah.
was
Yeah, for
great. It was
sure.
a great it was a
We'll
great
get
great experience. So
That's so cool. We'll get it in front of them for sure. But
Yeah.
I do gotta say I've seen some videos of your hands and
Oh, you
some
got
old
some
you
middies
you
there.
got some mitts. I
Come
see some
on.
old school
We were
clips
watching
of
your highlights of the. I was going to ask you actually. Do you have time to play men's league, or are you just so busy?
man, so I played some senior hockey last year, which was an absolute nightmare because there's always these junior B all stars that think you played pro
Right.
and it's their time to
Fun.
test you. Yeah, so I got into some trouble there, we'll just say. Yeah, you know what? I had to dial back the men's league because I went out about a month and a half ago to my first over 35 because I'm 36 now. So the older
Yeah.
guys are like, "Hey, come out to our team over 35. You'll be our ringer." It was my first day out, and I blew my knee out. So
No.
not terrible, but I've had to take some time off of playing because I coach. That's what I do development for. That's what I do for a living is I coach. So I can't really afford to be off the ice for 6 to 8 weeks if I do it worse. But I actually do play on another men's league team with Coach Chippy. I'm sure you guys have seen him.
I've seen him on your
So he's Coach Chippy and Jeremy, a couple of social media guys. So I get an opportunity to skate usually once a week when I'm healthy, and ultimately I just want to be in a tracksuit and push pucks around the ice and bust out a couple nice moves every now and again. But
There you go.
I don't have much time to practice. I'm coaching so much, and it's just such a joy to be able to be around the game, whether it's with the pro guys or the young boys or girls that I coach. It's something that I do not take lightly and will never ever take for granted again.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. Well, we appreciate you, Brady, man.
Yeah, so
God
much.
bless, and keep forging ahead. You're just gonna keep, just showing how powerful the mind is and how resilience can, can help you get through the toughest of times. So, I mean, props to you. I can't wait to see this.
I'm excited.
And I just, wish you the best in the future. It's going to open up more and more doors. I mean, you're doing it yourself already, and it just keeps proving to be true. So you got a bright future, brother. Thank
you very much. And I believe there's plans to make it into a full-fledged documentary after the short and condensed version on Hockey Night. So lots of cool stuff coming down the pipe, but I wouldn't be where I'm at with guys like yourself and be given these opportunities to share my story and to kind of be welcomed back to the hockey community. So thank you to you guys, and thank you to everybody who's supported my journey over the last 4 years, and hopefully for a long time to come.
Absolutely.
All right, brother.
Well, anything we do to help, let us know, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much, guys. Keep up the good work.
Big thank you to Brady Leavold for hopping on. Crazy.
Great guy. Wild, crazy, sad, happy story in the end here. Like, you almost listen to what he goes through. Even he was kind of getting emotional. Like, it's tough. We don't know him that well. You know him obviously better than myself, but just knowing that he went through that, God, man, it's heartbreaking, and so many go through, kids and everybody. But great story, great guy. Thankful he joined us.
Yeah,
man,
no doubt.
for sure.
Yeah. You think of how many times he shared his story, and he's still getting verklempt, and sad, and rightfully so. I mean, it's like, he said hell on earth. I mean, it's exactly what it is. But amazing story, and a story of hope and resilience, and battling through the darkness and finding your way, and then doing good, right? I mean, he's taking his struggles and his story, and he's using it for good. So
yes, for sure.
Got to give him a lot of credit, and he's got a bright future. I'm telling you, like we talked about. I was on his podcast early on. How many years ago it was?
I remember watching. He was in, like he said, in a friend's car.
He was literally, like it seemed like in a closet, the one I did with him. Just like, because again, he had nothing. He was just just trying to do what he could with what he had, which is essentially borrowed resources. But he's got a ton of support, a ton of help from people because of what we talked about, being vulnerable and sharing. So appreciate you, Brady, and all the good stuff you've been doing. So moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Hey, don't forget, coming up pretty soon here.
Oh,
February 17th, MetLife Stadium, fans of Philly. Paige and Joe have it all hooked up. It's going to be a party, Riggs.
It is.
You going to wear your winter coat because it might be cold?
Probably a toque and mitts, too.
Oh, mitzies?
Probably a scarf.
Oh,
got to take care of the neck.
Can't wait. Best sports travel agency around.
Oh,
fans of Philly.
They got it going on.
Wait.
It's going to be a great day. Great experience. Looking forward to it.
How banged up you think Debo's going to be?
He'll be probably pretty relaxed.
Oh, he's
always relaxed.
When is he not relaxed?
He's composed.
He is composed. That's why the ladies are just flocking to him. It's craziness, Debo.
I think we probably got the little pit stop at Indigo on the way.
Indigo, definitely going by there before we head there to the MetLife. Definitely.
New Jersey residents only.
New Jersey residents only, for sure. Yes.
All right, we're ready, Nas.
Are we ready? Is it that time, Baller?
We are ready to transition into the next part of this show.
Into Clear Rum questions?
Oh, yeah.
Brought to you by clearrum.com. Go to clearrum.com/shop for 35% off if you use the code NASTY2023, and you will receive 35% off in PA only. But it's time.
Deal. It's that
it's
time.
It's a great deal.
It's a great
and
deal.
As you see, well, you didn't see the ones out of the fridge that are gone, so I'm trying to behave with
a little
these.
magic trick.
Yeah, a little magic. But let's get into
magic.
it.
Right,
let's
Baller.
get into it, Baller. Clear Rum questions.
Got a couple questions here about your boy Hollywood.
Oh,
Hollywood.
First one is from Life in Pics RT over on the gram. Was Anthony Sanfilippo telling the truth about Hazy had anything to do with Cutter Gauthier?
Well, Cutter Gauthier. Well, I have no doubt if Anthony said he was told that by someone, then he was probably told that by someone.
Yeah.
I was earlier when we talked, I spoke to Hazy literally after this came out. He must have seen it on social media, and he obviously said he has never told the kid that, but like we had said earlier, even if he did say that, the kid's like, if that's all he needed, to say, I don't want to play here. I mean, I think it's stupid anyway. I think he should have enough people in his corner and his camp helping him. But I believe Anthony, if he was told that, I believe that he was told that. But I don't think Hazy did that. I don't think Hollywood told the kid not to sign here.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think Anthony gets his information. He gets good information.
He does, yes.
You have to realize too, a lot of times it's a game of telephone, and things get lost in translation sometimes. So we don't know like the exact way that piece of information was presented. But again, if Hazy did, let's just use that for argument. If he did, like, knowing his relationship with the Flyers and how it landed up, like, you could only hold that opinion with so much credibility. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like one piece of information out of all these different resources. If you're actually going around snooping around asking people for what to do,
right?
But I've heard that he's standing by. He didn't say that, which,
right.
I mean, if he's saying that, you got to believe him. But again, even if he did, we can't be making a huge deal about one guy's opinion, especially a guy that he left Philly on some bit of disgruntled terms, right? So as a professional, as someone that's evaluating information, that has to be in consideration.
Well, even if you pay attention, which I'm sure Cutter pays attention to hockey,
of course,
it wasn't a secret that Torts wasn't a fan of Hazy.
That's right.
Or the other guys we talked about earlier. But at the same time, like you said, what if Hazy did say, man, I don't know, like, if he's just going to go off one person telling him that, then there's some other issues.
And then you're calling up your agent, your parents saying, I want out of Philly because Hazy said so. Like, I don't know.
Exactly.
So it don't make a whole lot of sense. I'm not disputing that Ant got that information. I
sure
think,
he did. He wouldn't say it if
a
he
lot of
didn't.
stuff, travels around, and he wouldn't just make that up.
Right. 100%.
But just you also got to understand how information travels sometimes, and it gets chopped up or misunderstood, or he said this and didn't say that, and but the reality is Cutter's a big boy. He's got a big boy agent, and they got to make hard decisions for the for the client, for Cutter, and they did.
They did. See ya.
Yeah, exactly. Wish you
Good
luck.
question, though.
Yeah, great question.
Ginchman2727 over on Twitter. Did Hayes want Chief out of St. Louis?
Yeah.
Just attack on Hazy.
Just attack, no.
Hazy called up Army and said, we want Chief out.
No, he loves, she actually, the other night when all this went down, after we talked about that, we spoke about Chief, and he misses him, and loved him.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved him.
I could see that. And Chiefs, talked highly of Hazy, and
yeah.
maybe Kyrou.
Yeah, Kaisi maybe not.
Kaisi maybe got him out of there.
But no, Hazy
just joking.
actually absolutely loved Chief
Yeah.
and said his words, he's the fucking man.
Yeah.
Philly News Time over on Twitter. Should the Flyers pursue Zegras, and if so, who off the roster is reasonable to trade? Tippett Frost? ?
Ooh.
Oh, definitely not Tippy. Definitely not Tipster.
Well, listen, I know Torch. We've been told Torch is a huge fan of Zegras.
That's the word on the streets. It's his style of player.
It's his style of player, yeah. First of all, I don't think that would happen at all because I think Torch would lose his mind. And I'm not saying he's making those calls. Obviously, that's up to Danny Briere, Jonesy. But I don't know, man. Like, you guys were throwing out the numbers a few minutes ago. Like, I guess he's got decent numbers until this year. He has been hurt.
Yeah, a little rough year for him. Highly skilled. I mean, I could see maybe like a Frosty Zegras. I don't know. Again, I don't know the value because it's kind of player type. I can't imagine getting rid of a power forward like Tippett.
Yeah, like Tip,
shoot like that.
I still
like
think
that.
Tip's got a lot more in his tank here as he gets older. And but
certainly he's like a shiny nickel. He's a flashy player. The Zegras I'm talking about here now. He makes some plays look fun and enjoyable, but from a coach's perspective, I mean, I'm just not sure that Torts is the guy
he
who
grinds
wants to play.
it out in the corners and stuff. So
I mean, he does that.
Does he?
Corners of the bar.
Yeah, corners of the bar. Yeah, well, he's surfing. But I don't know. That's a great question because we did hear some rumblings about that, but I don't know who I would trade.
Jamie Drysdale called up Danny B and says,
Gotta get this guy.
Gotta get this guy in here.
Get
high
some
skill.
Ball taps and headbutts before we go out for the game. That'd be interesting to see if something like that does happen, though. Especially with, I don't think Torts would.
Yeah,
be loving that.
You got to give those guys some space and some rope, but like if they're not producing with that space and rope, like you quickly become the fringe guy.
He is a fun guy to watch. He's fun, great in warm-ups too.
Oh, great in warm-ups.
Everybody
great solid flow.
Yeah, the flow. He's got it all.
Skills.
We'll see.
Then we got to put him in the corner and grind.
Get you over there and help out with that.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Okay.
Great question. What do you got, Baller?
We got one final one from Brandon McComsey over on Instagram. What's the most ridiculous equipment-related request ever given?
Man, I've got one that really sticks out, and it was a young man that came. He signed as a free agent out of college, and first we signed him. Say it's a Wednesday. He signed on a Wednesday. He comes to the rink on a Thursday, and as I introduced myself with Paul Holmgren, actually, he says, "Are my pads here?" And I'm like, "Well," I said, "Well, I don't know. Actually, I don't."
Just making them in the back. Right now.
Yeah. Let me finish showing him up here. But no, I didn't even know what he used for equipment. And I said, "Well, I don't know what you use," but I said, "We'll sit down today and we'll talk about it and we'll get them ordered." I knew I should have signed in Dallas.
Wow.
That's what he says. And I'm like,
and Homer heard that?
Oh, well, Homer was 5 feet away.
Oh, if he really would have heard it, he would probably strangle him.
I'm like, Oh, I brought it up upstairs.
Wow.
But
what a comment.
Anyway, to the equipment. So once we do start talking about it, he is explaining the skates that he needs. Or he wore graph skates. And he wanted the eyelets to be white.
Ooh.
Okay, on the black boot, white. Yeah, and I'm like, why? I'm like, why white eyelets? He says, well, it's just my thing. I said, that's your thing? Well, your pads cover your skates, so I'm not sure. Like, is it for looks? It's just one of my things. I have to have this. So fast forward, we order everything he needs. Fast forward. We get his gear. If I'm not mistaken, it was Vaughn, and his pads come in a few weeks later, and there was one part of the pad right on the break in the knee on the outside. And when I tell you it's a triangle of like 2 inches, maybe 2 inches, was orange. He wanted that piece black. He goes, "I can't wear these." And I said, "What? What do you mean you can't wear these?" He says, "Well, they're wrong." I'm like, bro, they're exactly what you wanted. Well, this is supposed to be black and it's orange or vice versa, or whatever I said. And I'm like, well, the Vaughn guy's here. And you know, Yorgi, he's from Winnipeg. Yorgi happened to be there. And I said, he says he can't wear them. He goes, let me talk to him. So we get Yorg's. Yorg's a big man. Comes down. It's like, what's the problem, bud? And he's kind of like, well, I wanted this part. He goes, Nasty, you got a Sharpie? And that's what I had said too. And then he kind of backed off, but the eyelets I think were the thing that
the biggest
really
thing. That's an
threw
interesting
me.
request.
And I was just like, they can do it, but just didn't make a lot of sense to me. So he was a handful. I won't say his name.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask.
I don't know.
Why not? Why don't you say it?
We called him MLT.
MLT.
That was his nickname. But he was
meat, lettuce, and tomato.
No, he just he was okay. He was a decent kid. He just, I don't know if
High expectations for gear.
yes, very, and things just didn't go well.
Yeah, well,
Later, as it went on for him, unfortunately. But
should have
I don't have any.
eyelets.
Yeah,
Probably been better off.
should have. I didn't have anything bad to say about him as a person. He was a little. I think maybe his head was a little big coming in. Signing a deal with the Flyers, and that didn't really work out.
Quickly humbled.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
He was trying to kick veterans off the table to get a massage and B-Rad set him straight really, really quick.
Yeah.
So, and just quickly, that was a great question, actually. Quickly, talking about Paul Holmgren, he told me you're lying. Did you tell Baller?
Well, I don't know.
I'm going to tell the listeners who are listening, he told you he loved your beard.
He did. He told me the other day.
Bullshit.
He told me
said
the other
that.
day. In line at the game at the Ed Snyder's birthday party festivities,
Which was awesome.
Which was awesome, by the way. Great game, great
Yep.
old school game against Calgary Flames
against
too.
Calgary.
But in line, grabbing a little brunch, Homer right behind me says, "Like the beard."
So full of shit.
I'm dead serious, man. I was like, "Thanks, man." I was like, "Appreciate it, growing it for you."
He's got a buzzed military cut. Oh wait, well actually he grows
he's
the beard.
got
once
the
in a while.
beard going
He's
right
got
now.
a beard right now. He does do that in the winter now.
Not quite this long, but
I hope not. It's grayer than yours.
Yeah, I know it is. Yeah, well, he's
Dude,
also
we got to trim this thing anyway. Sorry.
well.
Great
it
job
happened.
with clear.
It
It
happened.
happened. So you say. We're gonna get some
Well,
confirmation on that.
Hit up Homer and ask
I am gonna hit him up. I'm gonna ask him why he told you that. I'm trying to get you to get rid of this thing.
because he likes it. Plain and simple. Well,
Oh boy. Okay.
that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Clear questions in the bag.
Thanks, Baller, Debo,
Yes, thank you guys.
putting those together. And that's a wrap here, Nas. 142.
Yeah,
Can't believe it.
I can't either.
Still rocking the same sweatshirt.
We are now. We trade.
They're gonna throw that up on the site.
Oh, you have to. Yeah, you're supposed to be doing that.
Jackie Moon over here.
Jackie
the
Moon.
website designer.
Do it all.
Yeah.
Do it all.
Commerce.
Got a goalie over there.
Yeah.
Soccer goalie.
Doing
it all.
But that's a wrap here.
All right.
142 in the books. Until
Yep.
next week for 143. Be sure to hop on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, like, comment, ask some questions. Until next week, stay safe, knuckleheads.
Yep.